Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today, I'm going to be reading chapter 6 and chapter 4 and 5 was pretty short last time, so I just want to release chapter 6 by the end of the week, so that's why I'm reading it now. It is currently the same night that I'm reading this, so it is 11:30 at night, but I'm gonna read chapter 6 and I'm probably gonna post this video on Wednesday. We will see about that. But let's get started. Chapter 6. Deku! The voice rumbled the walls without even seeing the boy. Izuku knew exactly who had saved him. Kachan? Izuku sobbed, curling into a ball. He tightened his grip on his shirt and sobbed. He sobbed like there was no one watching him, like he was alone, like no one could hear the pain in his voice. Bakugo dropped beside him. He stood there, unsure how he was meant to comfort the small boy. "You've got to be fucking kidding me." A demonic voice rang out, loud enough to make Izuku's ears ring and bleed. He shrieked in horror as blood dripped down his neck, going down his shirt. He clamped his hand over his ear, screaming bloody murder. Bakugo stared in distance at the man that now stood towering over Bakugo. The young boy growled, standing up. "How fucking dare you? Do you understand on how highly Deku used to talk about you? He fucking looked up to you. This is the shit you do?" He edged closer to the man, clenching his fist in anger. "I should have fucking guessed. Ever since you came back from that fucking business trip, he hadn't been the same. He looks terrible. At first I thought he was training too hard, but then he stopped fucking smiling. Do you understand how fucking horrible it is to see him with a goddamn frown all day?" Bakugo whispered, not even knowing half of the things that were spilling out of his mouth. "This weak ass has people that care about that shit?" Izuku's father snorted, crossing his arms. Who the fuck do you think you are?" Bakugo didn't answer. He continued to rant. Terrifying anger bubbled in his eyes as he did so. You are a terrible father, a terrible hero, and most of all, a terrible fucking human being. You fucking mental?" Bakugo screamed, sending large explosions off, aimed at the father. He had no time to dodge, so he simply went flying backwards. Bakugo was about to continue and beat the shit out of the poor excuse of a human. Keyword, about. He stopped when he heard sobs come from behind him. They were barely even audible, but Bakugo managed to hear the boy behind him. The sound made Bakugo's heart throb, and he grabbed his shirt, turning around. There he saw, with horror, Izuku had grabbed a glass shard from the ground and began to cut his arm open, whispering things such as, "I deserve this. They all want me gone. I want to die." Bakugo stared in disbelief as Izuku pushed the shard down deeper and deeper into his skin, reopening scars that seemed to cover his whole arm. Bakugo was frozen, staring at the broken boy, hurting himself. He couldn't believe that the boy he saw just hours ago, smiling and giggling, now is a broken mess on the floor. Bakugo finally came to his senses and ran to Izuku, enveloping him in an embrace. "Shut up. No. Shut up. No one deserves this. Shh, it's okay." He had no idea where this came from. It just rolled off his tongue so easily when he felt the racking sob of the boy under him. Without a second thought, Bakugo took his shirt off, tying it around Izuku's arms, trying to restrict the blood flow. He picked the small boy in his arms and took off, running out of the house down the street and to his own home. He shoved open the door and a booming bash. A woman looked much like Bakugo came from the couch, screaming, swearing at her son. The fuck? I thought I told you to stop doing that. She stopped when she saw the dangling boy hanging from her son's arms, blood now dripping out of the white shirt, landing on the black rug he was being held above. Mizuki, Bakugo's mother, stood in both shock and confusion. Her eyes widened when she noticed who the boy was. Izuku? She breathed out, her voice hitched. She ran up to her son, smacking him across the face, and took Izuku out of his grasp. Bakugo tried to take him back, screaming at his mother for taking him. He was in full protection mode. Even when it was with his mother, he didn't want anyone touching him. Oh, shut up. Look what you've done to the poor boy, she yelled at her son, leaving the room. She laid Izuku down on the kitchen table, grabbing the first aid kit as she went. You think I did that? What the fuck, old hag? I'm the one that got him away from the thing that did that. Bakugo screamed, running up to Izuku, teary-eyed. Why the fuck would you think I did this shit? He whispered, sitting in one of the chairs. If you didn't do this, who the hell did? His mother asked, wrapping the boy's arm in bandages. His father. Bakugo paused and stared at the boy. The boy's unbandaged arm, cuts running from the shoulder down to his wrist, and himself. He croaked out, grabbing a cloth to wipe the blood off from the side of Izuku's head. Himself? What do you mean? Bakugo simply pointed to Izuku's arm, indicating the cuts. Mizuki gasped, trying to hold herself together. He was self-harming? She stared in disbelief at the cuts. So much? Bakugo felt like crying, and Bakugo never cries. Never. He was meant to be the strongest guy in the world, but at the moment, seeing the boy he grew up with, the boy he promised to take care of, he felt like crying. He really hasn't protected him, beating him up, dropping his mental state lower and lower. A single tear ran down his pale cheek, landed on Izuku's arm. I'll call Inko, 1 second. Mizuki shakingly said, slowly taking out her phone. No, she's had enough to deal with. Please don't call her. I don't want her to worry about me. Izuku screamed from the table. Now wide awake, Mizuki looked in shock at Izuku. She deserves to know. No, it'll just break her mental state more. She's barely even able to hold on now. If she hears she wasn't there to protect me, she might just end it herself. So no, don't call her. Now both Bakugo and Mizuki looked at him in pure shock. Not only was Izuku depressed, but also his mother? What? Mizuki said, disbelief flowing out of her words. Izuku didn't respond. All his energy was gone, and his head fell back into the wood with a thunk.